Folks, happy Friday and welcome to the Freedom from the Press podcast. My name is Jason Robertson and I'm here with my partner in crime,
Rod Peterson. Thanks for joining us today, folks. Jason, it's heating up in Washington, D.C. Trump is cracking down on crime, and libs apparently love crime, love all the mayhem out there, and they are mad that Donald Trump is making it safe for Americans again.
Yeah, I got to say, every week Todd and I start talking about, what do we want to talk about? And Donald Trump has found a way to have Democrat politicians protest making Washington, D.C. not an S-hole. And it is the most glorious thing I've seen. We've got great videos to go over. It's spectacular. And I got to give a shout out. K-Gun Girl, always first in the chat. Thanks for joining. Although I was telling Todd, it was like 2 minutes before. We're like, God, I haven't seen the K-Gun Girl chat. I hope she's okay. And it looks like Split Rock Paulie's Coffee Corner. It looks like he started a new YouTube.
Cheers to Split Rock Coffee, Jason. Folks, splitrockcoffee.com. Use promo code TODD10. You can support a disabled veteran-owned coffee company right here in Minnesota where Jason and I broadcast from. We got Fally in the chat. Good morning. And we got James popping in. Sorry, guys. Going to miss most of the show today. Oh, no. He's in the hospital having a procedure done to the lower back. Well, James, when you are laid up, you can go through the entire library of our podcast in Rumble. Go to the American Tribune Rumble channel, and you can listen to all the podcasts in the past. But I hope the procedure goes okay today, James.
Yeah, prayers for James.
I get a dopamine rush when I see comments in the chat. I do this show. I like talking to you, Jason, but I like talking to our audience as well. And it is great to see them all popping up right away as our show kicks off.
I love it. And yeah, I got to say, James, prayers to you. If you're going back in the archives, Todd, I think the corn subsidy one is one of the more entertaining if you're going to be laying there on painkillers. We were just pissed because they're screwing farmers with these subsidies. And Todd and I ranted about it for...
That was one of our first shows. We did ethanol. It is the most boring topic when you think about it, but that was one of our best shows. I had so much fun breaking down ethanol subsidies, all the corn growth that gets paid for by your tax dollars and goes nowhere. But yes, good luck, James. And our Rumble chat is awesome. Everyone wishing James a safe procedure as well.
Giddy up. Well, Todd, I got to say, as we're kicking off this week, I got to ask a huge favor to everybody watching the show. As we get going, do us a favor, hit like, comment, share. Helps our show get reach. We're just two yahoos from Minnesota who get on the internet. We want to let you know you are not alone. You see this craziness out in the world. We call our podcast Freedom from the Press because so often the media narrative is just not what's really happening. And we go through example after example. This week will be no different. There was a meme that went around with Donald Trump. I remember when way back when, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many years ago. And it was if Donald Trump came out pro-oxygen, Democrats would stop breathing. And there was great memes going on where there'd be people like, I'm not going to breathe. This week in Washington, D.C., Donald Trump said enough is enough. And I went to Washington, D.C. probably 10, 15 years ago with my son. We saw the sites. And if you've never been to Washington, D.C., your big areas by your monuments or whatnot, relatively safe, a few too many homeless, that kind of thing, some crazy activists, that kind of stuff. But overall safe. But when you get out of the main area where the government buildings are, even during the day, you didn't feel safe. And this was 10, 15 years ago. What I'm seeing now, the crime stats, it is just an S-hole. And in America, Democrat leadership in all of these cities has continued to destroy cities. Minneapolis, that you used to be able to go to, have a nice dinner or whatnot. You don't want to be down there after dark. And there'll always be some liberal who'll be like, oh, no, well, look, here's a video of this one block that's clean. Yeah, one block is clean. Congratulations. I have my buddy Jim that I go visit. We have lunch every other weekend. He talks about hearing gunshots in his neighborhood like every week. You'll see that. He had a homeless encampment a couple years ago starting behind his house. What's happening in these cities with Democrat leadership is criminal. God bless President Trump for sending out the National Guard to help clean it up. And Todd, I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, and honestly, Jason, this is not an accident. This was not Democrats trying to solve the crime issue. It was intentional to let crime get out of hand because they like to create a problem and then offer a fake solution to voters out there to say, hey, can you solve the crime problem, which, parenthetically you created. I have to go back in time, though, Jason, 2 years as well. 2 years ago, a Dem representative, Henry Cuellar, was carjacked outside of Washington, D.C. That story got buried. But it is to the point now where you have congressional interns. One was ended a couple of days ago. You had one of the Doge employees who went by the name of Big Balls. He was assaulted trying to break something up here. This is not even like segregated to the black communities where black on black crime flourishes and Democrats want it that way. This is everybody now affected. And yes, Donald Trump said, I have a solution. The solution is to not let criminals do this. I'm going to send in the guards, send in the police, and I'm going to arrest the bad actors. And it is crazy to see Democrats just rip the mask off and say, we are pro-crime, we are pro everything that is awful for communities.
Well, and it's really fascinating, too, when you look at it, because have there been instances of police being too aggressive, over their skis, that kind of thing? Absolutely. It started with the 2020 riots, the race riots, and demonizing the police. Suddenly, police couldn't intercede in crimes being committed. Their hands were tied. And then there's been this slow decay in the judicial system where once you catch somebody committing a crime, they aren't even really prosecuted. Everybody's like, oh, we have to be, gentle to the criminals. And if you stop punishing people, you get more crime. And so it's the entire system is built on this. The victim is somehow the perpetrator, and it's not their fault. It's the people that, society made it where they had to commit crimes, and Americans are just sick of it. And it's funny for the black community, because they're trying to make it a race thing in DC. There's a large black community in the residents of DC, but this is not a white-black issue, in my opinion. This is a criminal, non-criminal. If you are a black person living in DC, you don't want bad things happening in your neighborhood. If you are a white person living in DC, you don't care. And I remember, I like to tell this story. My dad, he always said, like, stay away, don't mess with the police, right? The cops are going to, like, you will not want to get arrested, not just getting in trouble and the crime. And I remember one time as a young man, I thought it was wise to skip school and drink liquor with my friends, and the police apprehended us, and my forehead dented the hood of his car because I thought it wise to cock off to the police. And my dad picked me up, and I got a big shiner, and he's like, oh, looks like he whooped your ass, son. I'm like, he did, Dad. He's like, I'm going to call the police. And I'm like, oh, cool. And he's like, I'm going to tell him thank you because hopefully you learned something. And I'm like, oh, now if that would happen, somebody be screeching like, I can't believe you did this to my poor kid. And we have to get back to letting our police do their job, supporting them doing their job, and then prosecuting the people that they catch.
Yeah, 100%, Jason. I do want to get to Billy's comment in just a second. Billy, I hope you're with us today. What was the name of the gal last week, Jason? We dedicated like half the show to just arguing with her. You said it's not a race issue, and it's not, because at the end of the day, this is a solving crime issue, and you can be any background, any ethnicity, any race, and if you commit crime, I want you to be stopped from committing crimes. But there is a racial component we can't ignore either, because Democrats are making this narrative about Donald Trump making black communities safe somehow racist. And so in the Democrat mindset, it is racist to go after black criminals, but it is somehow ignored that Donald Trump is rescuing mostly black communities from a small minority of criminals. So is it racist to go after the black criminal, or is it the opposite of racist and actually a savior mode to go rescue black communities from their own criminals? They don't want to talk about that. So I agree, it's not a race issue on the surface, but we need to talk about the race, and we need to talk about what communities Donald Trump's going into to wake up these Democrats that no, it is not racist to go after a black criminal. It is the opposite of that, to rescue black communities from their own criminal elements.
And it's funny because one of the things, Todd's pulling up there's a couple chats I wanted to highlight. Folks, for our audience, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor. We need to offer prayers for guys like Billy, and then we've got Patrick. These people's brains are cooked. They are toast. They have, what happened to them where they've been so utterly convinced that everything's a racial thing, that everything's that. I don't know how we live in the same country as them because they are living in an alternate reality. I can only pray they get some mental help, they find God, they actually tune into podcasts like this that are going to help educate them on what's going on. Oh my God, we even got Patrick. GOP folks are gross, old perverts Epstein knew. Patrick, if you understand this was not a GOP thing, it was an elite thing with Epstein. Go back. We covered on our podcast. We did multiple episodes on it. We even dove into Donald Trump's connection with Epstein back years ago. There's much more evidence that it's like Bill Clinton or that kind of thing. But Patrick doesn't know that. Patrick doesn't care. He's a simple-minded person living in his parents' basement thinking like, oh my God, I'm so edgy because I brought up the Epstein files, which 6 months ago I was calling a conspiracy theory, and anybody who believed in them was crazy. Now, and they're going to unplug the chip of the Epstein files. They're going to plug in a new chip. I'm sure Patrick was, make sure you get your shot. I'm sure Patrick was,
Jason, look at his bio. He has a blue and yellow flag.
Ukraine. Patrick, there it is.
Patrick, I am letting you know right now. I actually dropped this link in one of my other podcasts on our Rumble channel here. You can go sign up for Zelensky's Foreign Legion if you believe so strongly in Ukrainian freedom. Otherwise, you are just supporting the continuation of slaughter over in Eastern Europe for no reason. Donald Trump will bring peace to that. He will bring peace to Ukrainians, which you won't acknowledge. But like you said, Jason, this guy wasn't talking about Epstein list 2 weeks ago until he thought he could weaponize it against Donald Trump. He didn't care. And Patrick, if you want to go back and listen to other podcasts, Jason and I have been very consistent. Release the files and prosecute and hold accountable the people that did bad things. And that includes everybody on the list. But Patrick doesn't care about that. He's committed to his side and his side only. He doesn't care about the truth. He doesn't care about accountability. He would be fine if Bill Clinton walked free, even if he knew Clinton was down on the island doing stuff. He just wants to see mean old Trump because Trump is every word in the book to this guy. Where was his other comment? He's so smart, Jason. He used the P word, the F word, the R word. Patrick is so smart when it comes to Donald Trump. But if you applied those same 3 words to Bill Clinton, Adam Schiff, whoever else could be in the files, he'd be like nothing to see here. People like Patrick prove our point every week that voting is too easy. I don't want Patrick making decisions for his own life, let alone my life.
Yeah, Patrick, move out of your parents' basement. Go touch grass. Go find something fun. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, like I say, we've done multiple issues. But Todd, do we get into this DC thing? Like, where do we start?
You know, we have so many good clips. Jason, you said I don't want to focus on the racing. I want to focus on the race angle. You are hearing right now that, and who else said it actually? We had the Billy. Billy accused us of being with this is perfect, Billy, the KKK regime. Billy, Donald Trump is rescuing black communities from criminals. He is making the lives of black residents in Washington, D.C. better and safer. I would love for you to explain how that makes him affiliated with the hood-wearing Democrats that terrorized the South for decades upon the completion of the Civil War. But this is for Billy, Jason. We're going to play some clips of D.C. residents who are black, who are thankful that Donald Trump is coming in. And Billy, I would love for you to explain what part of this makes Donald Trump a racist.
That is fucking my neighborhood. I've lived around here for years, and it ain't been this quiet in forever. Y'all like, oh, the police ain't doing nothing. They just standing around doing nothing. What you expect them to do? What you gave me dreams for when you got them dreams? Y'all didn't want Trump to come to this city, but now he's here. Y'all the reason. Y'all just gave him a reason. I don't like that fool, but I ain't mad at this. I haven't heard gunshots in like 4 or 5 days, and I usually hear them every night. The cops are all over this city, and if you don't see them doing anything, you know why? It's because the fools have gone into hiding. The minute that they leave and get off these streets, oh, the niggas coming back out again. So I'm going to enjoy the peace. Why I can, because I'm not out here breaking the law. Y'all been in the street murdering kids. Y'all been in the street murdering innocent people. We gave the mayor a chance to do something, and the chief of police. Neither one of them did anything. Y'all want the cops to put on a show, so y'all had something to put on social media. But y'all put them YNs on social media all the time.
Huh.
I got to say, Todd, imagine, I want our audience to just put themselves in a spot where you can benchmark how many times you've heard gunshots in the last night, week, whatever. When it's been 4 nights without gunshots, that you don't feel bad. And it's funny, I'm within earshot of a sheriff's shooting range where they do training. And this poor woman hears more gunshots than I do. In America, and this is not uncommon. We could pull video, and we've got a bunch of videos to share. But God bless this woman. She is one of the non-brainwashed people. She clearly says, I don't like Trump, not a fan of this, but you know what? Trump's results are working. People aren't getting shot up in my neighborhood. And this, I call this an 80-20 issue. 80% of Americans are going to say, we want to not hear gunshots or see criminals on our streets. 20% are going to be like the idiots we highlighted, and they, no matter what they do, Donald Trump came out sporting oxygen, James is going to quit breathing. I mean, that's what's going to happen. But I love this woman. Thank you. I am sure we vote different. God bless you, and I'm glad your neighborhood's getting safe.
Yeah, we have a few more clips. This is not like the one person we found supporting it. This is the thread of the show today. This is what is common. Jason, at what point do they actually connect the dots, though? They say, I don't like Trump. Turns out I like every America First policy because every single time it makes my life better. I am waiting for the other shoe to drop on these people and say, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe Donald Trump's not the problem. Maybe me voting Democrat every single election cycle is the real problem. But let's roll the tape. We got more people saying that Trump's doing the right thing.
They're able to do that, and I think there's no problem with that because there are pockets in D.C. that are significantly out of control. We have school zones that are drug-infested neighborhoods.
Mixed reaction from the community, but they all agree on one thing. Something must be done to decrease crime.
Well, there's your honest media, Jason. Mixed reactions, but they all want something to happen to crime, so it turns out they all support this.
I got to say, Melissa might have the greatest comment. I hear gunshots at night because someone is shooting an armadillo in their yard.
Yeah, I'm with you, Melissa. When I hear shotguns, it's because there's a muskrat in the lake again. That is the only time. Or you got a target. I got neighbors with targets in their backyard here. That is not the kind of gunshot our previous video was talking about. She was talking about drive-bys, and she hasn't heard him in a while. Imagine that.
Oh my gosh. And I love what you say too, the media spin on this, or people are conflicted. There's 20% of the people that no matter what Donald Trump does, they're going to oppose it. There are 80% of Americans, however they voted, whatever they think, who want to be able to walk down their street at 10 o'clock at night, take their dog for a walk, not worry about getting shot, mugged, killed, whatever the thing is. This is not a radical right policy. Where do we
need
go
all the
now?
protection that we can get in the city, because the city is really getting dangerous. A person like me at this age, I have to make sure to come home before sundown.
Well, there we go again. I see a lot of black DC residents fed up with crime. They probably voted for the crime, by the way. They voted for the pro-crime party of Democrats because that's what this bloc does. They always vote Democrat. But even they are being honest enough to say, like, something is happening and it's different. It's not releasing criminals. It's not avoiding tiptoeing around the issue of who these assailants are. They are black teenagers. Donald Trump is targeting neighborhoods where there is actual crime. I don't think I have the video clip, Jason, but in my podcast yesterday, some angry, I think her name is Sydney Simone Sanders, something or other on MSNBC. She's like, you thought Joy Reid was bad. She takes it to another level. And she says, why aren't the police in Georgetown? This proves that Donald Trump's a racist. And it's like, because the affluent white communities aren't shooting each other every day. Like, the police are going where the crime is.
Right. You know, and it's funny to give a shout out to Will Tanner. For those who tuned into the podcast, Will's one of our partners who does stuff, but he wrote a wrote an article kind of tangentially related to that, where everybody wants to make things about race. And like, all of the arrests in the black communities are higher than in the white communities. It must be racism. At some point, the numbers are the numbers, and where the crime is happening, where the murders, the robberies, the carjackings are happening, is a relevant factor. And if you're going to, like in Minneapolis, you are not going to go into the fancy restaurant area where no crime's being committed. You're going to go in the other neighborhoods, and that's what you're going to do. It's crazy.
I think we got one more, Jason, because we're on a roll with these vids. But I love Russell's comment here. Jason, you and I have said this often. So our boy Patrick, who's upset about the Epstein list and Trump's association, and we voted for a P word, you had 4 years to open them under Joe Biden, and you didn't. I love that comeback to these clowns that are like, Trump's on the list, we got to release the list all of a sudden. It's like, correct. You had Democrat control in the White House, the Senate, the House, the Department of Justice, the FBI. You could have. Democrats easily could have. I don't remember
Right.
getting mad about it, though.
Well, and like I say, up until about 3 weeks ago, that guy would have been calling you a crazy conspiracy theorist if you brought up Pizzagate or talked about the DNC email leaks or any of those things. And now all of a sudden he got a whiff of, oh, maybe Trump's on there. Look, there's a picture of Trump. Like, these people are so disingenuous. It just drives me bananas.
All right, Jason, I just had a ping on my phone. I hate to do this live. I did tell Jason I'm going to have to run out of the studio for a second because I have a Facebook Marketplace deal. And the only reason I'm talking about this, I have a car seat that my wife was like, you're never going to sell it. She was giving me all sorts of hell. It's just sitting in the garage, taking up space. And I said, I will sell this car seat. I will sell it before I die. And Jason, someone says they're on their way right now. And I cannot wait to tell my wife when she gets home with the kids to be like, I did it. It's going to be one of those glorious husband moments to be like, admit you were wrong. And then I'm going to probably sleep on the couch, but it'll totally be worth it.
Excellent. I got some video clips, Todd. I'm going to continue the journey, and I'm going to count on the chat to help get me through all this.
Well, he's on his way. I'm not going yet. I just okay. So I had to set it up here. It's going to be a glorious hour today.
So when Todd's got to skip out, now you know what's going on. Yeah, and I got to say that was one of my greatest tweets ever. I think we showed it on one of the podcasts. I had a hinge that I had when we took a window out, and I'm like, I'm going to keep this hinge. Someday I'm going to need it. And then the day came that I needed it. And Jen Robb from MN, I don't know if she's watching today. She's got a lot of calls to make, so it's probably on in the background. But I tweeted about it. I'm like, this is a greatest day. And then the funny story is, the kids actually, somebody had screenshot it, was sharing it on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever they were doing. So husbands, take your wins where you can get them.
I was trying to pull it up really fast, and Jason, I can't find it. I wanted to give you your moment.
Oh, it's pinned on my profile.
Oh, is it really? Well, let's share it.
And I'm going to be looking for Todd's post later on the Twitter. And then we'll get back to black people saying in Washington, D.C. saying, we love that Donald Trump's doing it.
I got to say, Jason, we can cover everything on this show. Marital counseling. Here's Jason's famous tweet, though. Humble brag. 11 years ago, I had a window replaced, and I told the contractor, hey, let me be that guy that grabbed the hardware in case I need it and threw it in the junk drawer. Wife mocks me. And today, 11 years later, a contractor working in a different room said, man, I wish we could get that exact hardware to replace a busted piece. Hang on a second, Jason says. Took me 11 years, but checkmate.
Take the husband wins. I think that was one of my greatest. I think it got like 4 million views or something.
3.2 mil, Jason. Not too shabby.
Oh my God. So husbands, you can brag. Todd, I'm looking for your tweet. All right, let's get back to DC.
With my window down, not worried about if one of them young niggas is coming.
I just got to say, Jason, again, we just pulled random videos. 2 out of the 4 videos, I have caught a certain word that these black DC residents are using to describe the criminal element in their own communities. I'm just going to leave it at that, folks. Just going to leave it at that.
Riding through the city, feeling more safe than I ever felt.
Look at that.
I'm happy for her, Jason. Honestly, I had a tweet on this too. I don't know if I can say it only on Facebook, but I feel very vindicated and I don't identify as a white American. I see myself as a husband, a father, an entrepreneur. I call myself a lot of things. I've never identified as white unless pushed by the Democrats to do so. But we, Trump voters, are the only people in America that care about blacks and black communities. We want their babies to be born alive. We want their communities to be free of gun crimes and gangs. We want their communities to have better school systems. And I got called all sorts of names because Democrats just launched at me in a tirade on another Twitter story that maybe we'll cover in a little bit, Jason. It is astounding, though, how these Dems, these white libs, style themselves as saviors. They're looking out for blacks. We got called KKK earlier. The only people doing anything with tangible, measurable, objective results in America is Donald Trump and his base. That is fact. That is it.
Yeah, the America First movement, I don't even know how it became a race thing, like
because Democrats.
It's the most remarkable thing ever. It was driven by the fine people in Charlottesville, which we have covered at length in this podcast and on different things. And it's funny, if I can expand on the use of the N-word, and that's part of what we're going to get into on the Rumble only. So for new viewers to the show, we broadcast on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. We broadcast on multiple platforms. Our favorite is Rumble. The reason why our favorite is Rumble, we have a great community we're building over there. Hey, you can even subscribe and give us a couple bucks a month. We appreciate that. But more importantly, Rumble lets us say and have conversations that we need to have in America that YouTube and Facebook would nuke us for. And we always say, like, do an extra half hour, 45 minutes at the end. We call it Rumble only. Great people over there. And we chat about things. And once again, it's to know to know you're normal. And just for any white people, maybe if there's any white liberals that stuck around, I grew up poor in a trailer park in southwestern Minnesota. I was poor white trash. And when I grew up, people called folks trailer trash, right? Now, somebody could say trailer trash. I was unoffended, even though I was part of that group, because I knew what trailer trash was. Trailer trash was the guy that was hammered at 10 in the morning who was unemployed with a rusted out car in front of his house. Trailer trash was not me and my family, who we were just poor. We worked hard. We maintained our house. We weren't alcoholics and druggies. So when people used that word, I was unoffended. Call us trailer trash. I moved to Minneapolis when I was a young man in my late teens, and I lived in a black neighborhood. It was my job. There was an opportunity in an inner city neighborhood. People didn't want to go there. And I went from being the vast majority to the vast minority. And in the black community, I remember I would go to the bar with the guys after work. I'd be the only white guy there. They use the N-word to describe a particular type of individual. The N-word to them is the thug who is a baby daddy instead of a dad. He's the guy that doesn't go to church. He's the guy that isn't employed. He is the trailer trash equivalent. And so when they use the N-word, that's what they're talking about, generally speaking. And that's why it's funny, because if you or I were to describe them as that, like, they would label you all sorts of names. But in the community, that woman who says these N-words are doing whatever, like, there is a particular type of person she is describing, and it is not his skin color.
Man, I can't believe we have to say these things sometimes. Jason, we have a YouTube comment. Second only to interacting with our Rumble audience, getting me the dopamine hits, is seeing someone over on our YouTube channel. It gives me hope that we have some reach. Martial law, baby. Yes, I just got to say here, it ties in perfectly. While Jason was speaking, I had to get in a little Twitter feud with some of these morons here. As it relates to legalized marijuana, Donald Trump's going to, I think, declassify it a little bit, downgrade it. And I am completely opposed to that. I think we need to make marijuana use and all of its availability just disappear. It needs to be heavily imprisoned, heavily fined. And people are like, you believe in freedom until you don't anymore. And yes, that is 100% true. I do not believe in unlimited freedom. I believe in martial law to crack down on crime. You don't get to do whatever you want. And how are you free? No one ever answers this question. How are you free if you are a slave to your vices? So you are using marijuana every day. You are distorting your mind. You're unable to function. But you're free. You're free to do that, I suppose. But are you really free if you're not self-actualizing? So Related to Tom Jones's comment, I love martial law. I love cracking down on bad people to maximize freedom for the rest of us. Neither here nor there, Jason, but I just had to say that.
No, I love that. And a YouTube comment. Tom Jones is back. Thank you for tuning in over there. Yeah, K-Gun Girl. They always turn it racial. Yeah, it's funny. It is funny. And Fally, white trailer trash, Jason. That's me. Actually, Fally, I might have to tell you to get off my land. My largest ethnic makeup is Native American. So y'all are on my stolen land. I want y'all off.
You know what, Jason? Next show, I'm going to do a land acknowledgement just for you. I will dive into, I actually have old emails from Brooklyn Center where the other assistant principal, I won't get into her background. She was a nice person enough, completely gone. But I saved some of her land acknowledgments that she would open up our staff meetings with. And you're just like, my God.
Yeah, and I got to say, just for a little bit on my ethnic heritage. So my dad's very dark complected and his mom was Native, and you could tell, right? And it was funny because dad was like he's a Democrat, which is wild. And he is anti like government assistance or whatnot. And I legally could have qualified to like mark Native American on my college application and get in on that. And he's like, you ain't doing that. You're just an American. And it's like, Dad, but what about the free college money? He's like, you afraid to work, boy? And it's just hysterical where some of these people like I am so thankful for my dad, although we don't politically agree on things, that he taught me not to be a victim, because as soon as they make you a victim, they control you. And it's not just a Democrat Republican thing. Don't get me wrong. Republicans for years pre-Donald Trump were just as awful as Democrats. And there's a bunch of them that still are. So anybody who wants to play, it's just a Democrat versus Republican. America first is the way forward.
All right. I just got to say, dude, Tom Jones singing Thunderball. I know that's not his greatest hit. I love the old James Bond movies, though. So now I'm singing that song in my head as we're talking about this, Jason.
Right.
Can we exhaust this? Can I play the laundromat story, or have we just beaten this horse beyond repair?
I think we need the laundromat story.
All right. One more video, folks, to really hammer home the point. And I guess I have a challenge for all the Jason's dads out there. At what point, and I'm not saying that you're wrong, people are entitled to their opinions here, but we present all this every week. I think we do so on a factual basis. We certainly opine on the issues here, but we're just making the case that what Democrats voters believe at this point is just straight up wrong, been lied to. I wonder, Jason, will your dad vote in 2028 for a different political party if he listens to our show on a week in, week out basis?
No.
No. Okay. I asked.
I hope, but I don't think so.
All right, I got to set up this video too. Here you have a typical assailant in Washington, D.C., young black male, and he is in a laundromat with other black people because their communities are in the same area, obviously. He is terrorizing other black residents. Not a single one of them wanted a masked-up, bat-wielding teenager to enter the laundromat. They wanted to go and wash their clothes and then go back home and go to work, raise their family, hang out with friends. One guy is all it takes to ruin the entire experience in this laundromat. And then look who comes to the rescue. And then I got one more point. I don't want to get a copyright strike with the music, so I'm going to mute it. All right. Just to hammer this point home, Jason, I voted for the man that would allow black laundromat goers to not be harassed and terrorized washing their clothes. I voted for all of their safety and prosperity, and I voted to put the bat-wielding lunatic behind bars forever. I fully want to see the black community thrive, and we got Billy in the comment before that said I voted for the KKK president.
Well, yeah, and God bless that man who stepped up and stopped him. You know what I mean? Because too often people just see this crap happen and don't want to get involved, don't want to get in the middle of it. And for many people that are opining, like Ukraine flag guy earlier, can you imagine a world that these folks are living in where they're going to the freaking laundromat? You got some idiot running around with a baseball bat. And this is not a one-off. I joke about, like, I do the Wayne Dupree podcast during the week. We had a gun incident at my dog park the other day where there was like a fight broke out, somebody pulled the gun. And for those who watch both shows, like they've heard the story, but like that's a one-off. We've gone to the dog park for 5 years. First time there's been any fisticuffs at the dog park. Some Americans live like this, where this is an everyday way of life. It is unacceptable. God bless President Trump for straightening it out.
Yeah, this is normal. I think back to their gal that she's like, I haven't heard a gunshot in 4 nights, and it's really strange. Like, imagine that you have normalized hearing gunshots. Imagine that you have normalized, like, well, I expect some bat-wielding teenager to come to the store today while I'm doing this. Like, when I was in the school system, it was just normalized that you would have kids fight each other, punch out teachers, run the halls, throw chairs in the classroom, and every day a teacher would evacuate her classroom, and we just normalized it. And we explained it as a way as like, well, they had a traumatic childhood. Well, they live in a white supremacist nation. Well, we didn't do a land acknowledgement today, and so that's why this guy over here decided to throw chairs at his classmates' heads. No, nothing about this is normal. Thank God for President Trump for cracking down. And again, it is not hard to solve the issue of crime. You stop the criminals. Democrats always wanted it this way. They did it on purpose. It was intentional. It was malevolent. And everything about this, Jason, I just can't stand now that Democrats are like, I can't believe Donald Trump's doing that.
I really hope he comes out pro-oxygen, because if he comes out pro-oxygen, we're going to solve a lot of problems. Oh, man, where do we go next, Todd?
All right, I think this clip, I'm trying to find, we got the CNN clip with Jillian Michaels. So the narrative now, because obviously we're solving black crime and black communities and making black lives better, that's not good. You can't have Donald Trump rescuing black communities. You got to just hammer people back down and say, remember that America had slavery. And of course, the obvious answer is that slavery was universal. White Christian nations abolished the practice, made sure that other nations did not continue the practice with a naval blockade around the entire country of Africa, basically. But no, American slavery was uniquely bad because, and we're going to use the word chattel slavery, because if we qualify the word slavery with something else, I mean ownership of somebody, which is already redundant in the idea of slavery, that makes it sound extra bad. So the new talking point is America had slavery and everyone else did, but America's was worse somehow. And this is just a masterclass from Jillian Michaels, who I got to say is really waking up to the woke left insanity here. I think she still might vote Democrat, but she is very good on the issue of LGBTQ, now on the issue of slavery. And Jason, I don't know about you, but I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I think our audience will as well.
Smithsonian, he's effectively now has some random person deciding what is appropriate for the Smithsonian to teach in terms of American history, things that don't offend parts of the MAGA base, right? So we're now literally reviewing parts of American history and parts of American culture to make sure it comports with dear leader and what the MAGA organization
Can we address
wants.
some of those things that are in there? Because have you looked at some of the things that are being reviewed?
Yeah, slavery was a bad thing that was to talk about.
Okay.
Like,
He's not whitewashing slavery.
So he's not?
He's not. No,
okay.
he's not. And you cannot tie imperialism and racism and slavery to just one race, which is pretty much what every single exhibit does. But let's talk about the fact that when you let's talk about the fact
that slavery in America was.
Do you realize that only less than 2% of white Americans owned slaves?
But it was a system of white supremacy.
You realize that slavery is thousands of years old?
White people were
Do you know who was the first race to try to end slavery? Well, what's controversial?
I'm very surprised.
This is an extraordinary exercise in historical revisionism.
I'm really surprised.
Revisionism. Do you realize that?
Jillian, I'm surprised that you're trying to litigate who was the beneficiary of slavery and
I'm
who
not.
was not.
What I'm trying to tell you is that
in the context of American history. Okay. In the context of American history, what are you saying is incorrect by saying that it was white people oppressing black people?
Every single thing is like, oh, no, this is all because white people bad. And that's just not the truth. Like, for example, every single exhibit, I have a list of every single one. Like, people migrated from Cuba because white people bad. Not because of Castro. Yes, no, it's in there. That's what I'm saying. You don't actually know what's in there. Do you know that when you walk in the front door, the first thing you see is the gay flag?
Jillian, you have a lot of stuff in front of you.
Yeah, I do,
what
because
exactly
I don't, because here's the thing.
Are you talking about?
Okay, I'll give you an example.
Yeah, please.
There's one called Change Your Game, right? This has been an installation there. Is gender testing fair in sports? Does that, and then it goes on to talk about how it's complex to do gender testing in sports. It's not complex. It's basic science. That's untrue. It's XX chromosome, XY chromosome. That's sports. Is it fair to have biological men competing against biological women in sports? No. But why is this in the Smithsonian? So it's
I mean,
been completely captured.
First of all, I don't.
And
think
it's totally partisan.
We don't. First of all, we don't have time to litigate
of
all of this.
Of course we don't, because then you're going to lose the argument. If everything is racialized, just like you're trying to do to me now.
Excuse me.
It's like, I can't believe you're trying to suggest, that slavery
just to
is
be
a good
clear,
thing.
you brought up race.
No,
this was a conversation about the arts, and you brought up race.
It isn't.
You brought up.
But the whole point of this is that the issue
you brought up slavery, and you brought up the question of whether. You brought up the question of whether or not slavery in the United States is about race. The answer is yes.
Of course. I did not
say in the United States
don't
is
straw man
about
my argument
race.
because that's not what I said.
So what are you
brought
talking
up
about?
Slavery, and what I was talking about is that this isn't really about that. When you make every single exhibit about white imperialism when it isn't relevant at all, that is a problem. So when you're talking about Cubans leaving Cuba and you make it about white people bad, that's not accurate.
Can I just say,
that's my point.
All right, we're going to move on.
I love that clip so much. Fally, I think I like Jillian. We don't always like Jillian, but Jillian is what I would consider a normie Democrat. Todd, would that be a fair?
I think that's a fair way to describe her. Still, I don't think she voted for Trump. I think she will in 2028.
The lifelong Democrat. What they're talking about is it came out, and the guys earlier in the chat heard the news. Donald Trump is changing Smithsonian exhibits so they fit Der Herr's, or however you want to say it, Hitler's narrative. We're rewriting history. We shouldn't rewrite history. And the point she's making, my favorite example is there was a display, and it was talking about why Cubans left Cuba and came to America. Folks, let us know in the chat, from your knowledge of history, why did they do that? My experience in history is Cubans left Cuba because communism sucks. They were sick of eating their pets for food and starving, and the quality of life was horrible. And so they fled the communist regime and they came to America. Like, this should be taught. We should be teaching all of our kids communism is awful. It has never worked. It has produced more atrocities than any political system in the history of political systems. But in the Smithsonian, when they talk about people leaving Cuba, it was white imperialism disrupted their governance, so they had to flee for a better life. It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen or heard. Thank God President Trump is going in there and saying, guys, let's make it about Cuba or about communism, because that's why they left. And in the racial stuff, Todd, I'll let you go into the slavery rant. You've got a great slavery rant.
I feel like some days in your head, you're like, do I really need to say it again? And then you watch a clip like this, or you read your Twitter feed, and you're like, yes, I have to say it again because people still don't get it. All right, my guy is 5 minutes away. 5 minutes to me texting my wife, Jason, like, I sold it. Take that. Admit you were wrong. And I probably won't come back.
Yeah.
So everyone had slavery. Jillian made that point. And then this is what Dems do. And this is, you can never win an argument with these people because...
Now just wait, Todd. I'm going to interrupt you. Explain the historical context of slavery. You say everyone had slavery. Like, where did the word slave come from and how many nations had slaves?
Isn't that a fascinating conversation? So slave derives from the word Slav, which is used to describe a white European, because as Thomas Sowell points out, Thomas Sowell writes about slavery so eloquently, you had slaves, you captured people around you. So whites in Europe would capture whites in their area. Blacks would enslave other blacks. Asians would enslave other Asians. They didn't even see it as a moral sin. It was just, you are either a slaver or a slave, and people just accepted that in life. It wasn't even a question, should we abolish slavery? It was just like, yes, we have slavery, and it is good to be on top so that I am not the slave. And so this was common practice. And then Judeo-Christian values eventually bubbled up, and they said, we are all equal under the eyes of God. We cannot have these two ideas of it's okay to enslave if we're all created in the image of God. So thank God for Christianity spreading around the world and actually introducing the idea of basic human rights and basic self-worth, that you cannot just be owned by another human being. But everyone practiced slavery. No one saw that it was bad. Blacks capture, Jason, we say this every time too. Blacks had to capture other blacks to be able to sell them to the white European traders. If all the blacks in Africa had said, we're not going to let you take us, then there's no slave trade. Or if other blacks had said, like, we value the lives of our fellow blacks, we're not going to enslave them in the first place before the Europeans came, you also don't have an Atlantic slave trade. But they do this every time when they argue. Can I push back on your notion of slavery? Why are you doing that? We're not talking about slavery. We're not talking about that. Are you defending slavery in America? No, I'm not actually. I'm trying to tell you how you're wrong about your vision of America. And Jillian said it best. She said, the narrative is anti-white. You are not interested in history. You are interested in propaganda. Did white people own slaves in America? Did white people own black slaves in America? Yes. We're not talking about that. We're talking about how you use that as a narrative to put whites down, to go after your reparations, to go after your DEI and say you're entitled to all these programs because slavery happened. You know what? Actually, Jason, you wanted to chime in. I'm going to pause for a second. I feel myself bubbling up here.
I was going to say, just to jump in, I mentioned earlier my Native American heritage. For those who don't know, Native Americans were hunter-gatherers, many tribes across these great United States, and those tribes would go attack the other tribe, kill the other tribe, kill the men, make them slaves, make their women their sex slaves. That was how Native American tribes often engaged with one another. When the white people showed up for all the land folks, white people were just better at war than the Native Americans, which is why the white people claimed the land. I mean, and I never understand the moral distinction between two Native American tribes killing each other. The more powerful one gets the land, and then the white guy shows up. Why can't he participate in it? This is coming from a Native American. So take it for what it's worth. Slaves. So Native Americans had slaves. Africa full of slaves. China full of slaves. They still have slaves today. Europe full of slaves. The name slave comes from Slavic. So when you have this conversation about slavery and you want to make it where you frame up to people that don't know. And yeah, since the beginning of time, man tries to dominate the next guy. Nothing to do with race. Fally is 100% right. And it's funny. I'm going to go on a tangent here talking about the Bible. So one of my liberal relatives or extended family members, they like to quote the conversations about slavery in the Bible. This just in, folks, 2,000 years ago, slavery was one of the most common things in the history of mankind. Every civilization had slaves. Every civilization was built on slaves. Maybe the only one that didn't have it was Atlantis. Maybe the destroyed country that we don't know anything about, that could have been the one piece of the world that didn't have slavery. But slavery happened everywhere. So what Donald Trump did is they're looking at these Smithsonian exhibits, and they are all America bad because of slavery. And it creates in these uneducated people, like we had in the chat earlier, it creates this image in their head. America's a bad place. I shouldn't be proud of it. America doesn't deserve to exist. Somehow it's less because they had slavery. And the fact of the matter is, it was an abhorrent practice that the world practiced. America was one of the first nations to actually abolish it and go to these other countries that still practiced it and said, you need to stop. If you want to do an honest telling of slavery, you would say, yeah, America had slavery, so did the world. By the way, we fought a civil war to end slavery, and then we spread that across the world. Now slavery is an outlier, not a leading thing. And that would be an accurate telling of history. You walk into these Smithsonian exhibits, and the exhibits made it sound like American wouldn't exist without slavery and white people bad. They make no mention of anybody else in the world doing having slaves. They make no mention of anybody else in the world where it was part of their socioeconomic system. It's the most ridiculous thing ever. And I, for one, am thankful that President Trump is reflecting an accurate portrayal of history, because people need to know that, like, slavery bad, we shouldn't have done it, but they want to leave that out. And God bless Jillian for going on CNN, and think of that. She's taken on those people like 7 against 1, making valid points like only 2% of Americans had slaves, like slavery was a common practice, and all these folks want to talk about, but no. Oh, Todd, give it up in the chat. Todd made $40.
She said it was impossible.
Your wife, Todd, I'm sorry, I was ranting about slavery. Slavery gets me so mad when I need you to calm me down now, because it just pisses me off that people act like white people were the only ones that had slaves.
Well, and they act like when we try to set the conversation down a different path, are you condoning slavery? Does that mean you like slavery? How many different ways do I have to say I abhor slavery? I wish we ended the practice with illegals that came across the border to provide the new cheap labor that Democrats love so much. I wish we didn't have child slavery over in Asia that made all of our cheap goods. I wish we manufactured at home. I hate slavery. I wish African nations today would abolish the practice, but they still have it over there in some nations here. Absolutely hate it. I don't know why that is so hard to understand for these Democrats here. But Jason, I am fired up about this too. I want to get back in the comments as well.
Oh my gosh, we got Valley, sad part, more slavery now than ever. Sex labor.
Joe Biden's administration lost 300,000 kids, and what do you think happened to them?
Right.
Just because they weren't picking cotton. I think picking cotton might be better than what those kids had to endure. This is outrageous. And my whole thing is, too, the only reason they talk about slavery, I was not alive when it was a thing. Neither were the black pundits talking about it, these white libs that need to feel guilty. I have nothing to feel sorry for. They only use it to promote an anti-white agenda. That is all this is. They are solely dedicated to accruing political power, and they weaponize your white tolerance, your white Christian tolerance and guilt to make that a thing.
Oh, unbelievable. Hey, should we play that Pam Bondi clip? We're getting closer to the end on the...
We're already, man, the hour is flying by. Yeah, let's head over. You want to set up Bondi?
Nah, go ahead.
Let's just fire it away.
Will not remain a sanctuary city actively shielding criminal aliens. Will not happen. Under Donald Trump's directive, D.C. will become safe again, and it will become clean again. And I think what's happening is it's a combination of an extremely divisive city council. You have liberal judges. You have no cash bail, as you said. You have juveniles running rampant over this city, and you have a Metro Police Department. They want to do their jobs. And we have been out there.
All right, you're listening to this, and I'm over the Pam Bondi on Fox News things, by the way. This is my weekly rant. I don't want to see Bondi on TV. I just want to see her prosecuting people. No more TV appearances for Bondi if I'm in charge of the Trump administration. Everything she says, though, we're going to make D.C. safer. We're going to arrest the bad guys. We're over having this corrupt, woke city council, DAs, prosecutorial people that just let bad guys back out. I'm asking honestly if Billy is still in the chat, or a Ukraine flag troll that was in the chat earlier, or any Democrat for that matter. Why is this controversial? You called it an 80-20 issue, Jason. I'm honestly asking how this is not a 100-0 issue. We are stopping criminals from criminalizing and harassing and terrorizing and harming and assaulting good people. Why is this controversial? I don't care if you hate Trump, you hate Pam Bondi. Why are you opposed to what they are doing? And Jason's making his blood sugar levels are okay again.
Yeah, I was going to say, sorry, I had to sneak out and grab the old peanut butter cup.
Chewing? Is he not done chewing? How much longer should I talk here?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm sitting here. I got my little arm sensor for my diabetes. I'm like, I'm feeling a little goofy. Maybe that's why I was ranting so much. And then I'm like, oh, blood sugar's going low. And the advantage of when your blood sugar goes low, I get to have a Reese's peanut butter cup. Someday, if I ever get an endorsement deal in addition to Split Rock Coffee. Do we have a promo code, Todd?
For Split Rock Coffee, Jason, let me look it up for a second. Yes, we do. In fact, it is promo code TODD10, folks, at splitrockcoffee.com. Support Paul Reese's. What's Paul's new name over on the YouTube, by the way? What did he say it was?
It was like Coffee with Paul or something over there.
Yeah, here it is. Paulie's Coffee Corner over on the YouTube. We got Paul watching, by the way, on YouTube, on Rumble, and on X. Paul is single-handedly boosting us in the algorithm on all of these major platforms. I wonder if Paul has a Facebook account too. But folks, splitrockcoffee.com, promo code TODD10. It's delicious coffee every week. I'm in the breakfast blend here. I even got my American Tribune mug. But the breakfast blend keeps me going so I can rant about the issues of slavery and the historical inaccuracies promoted by Democrats for at least an hour and a half. I could probably go longer.
Giddy up. I got to say, too, shout out to Dee Dee. Better late than never. Had to back up our utility van down the driveway with trenches and grass. God love you, Dee Dee. I would have had to get the neighbors.
We got people shooting armadillos. We got people backing up the utility trucks, only on the American Tribune.
All right. So to talk more about the Pam Bondi thing. So thing one, this message she's talking about, like Todd said, should be 100-0 issue. DC, city's awful. I don't even know what to say, but I don't know. I need somebody to explain to me how Democrats can be offended and horrified by this message. The second thing, and we're going to talk about it a little more on Rumble only. It's going to be my final thought for the week as we wrap up, but that'll be on the Rumble only section. Todd, I got to think they're gearing up for arrests. I could be wrong.
That's what everyone tells me.
I'm living on hopium. I know I'll be. I tell Wayne that, and he looks at me like nobody's ever going to get arrested. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I got a feeling. I'm seeing something in the tea leaves, but I'm probably wrong. This will probably age poorly. You'll get to make fun of me, but I hope the arrests are happening.
I have to think it's now or never, Jason. If we don't get arrested in this Trump term, we got 3.5 years left. If nothing happens, I don't know if it ever happens here. So it needs to, it has to. But I'm with you. I like to think it's the slow roll, gathering evidence. That's what all the naysayers are telling me when I'm like, no more TV appearances. Just start arresting them here. I am with you. I'm a 51-49 right now that we're going to get arrests.
Giddy up.
And I just got to say too, Jason, Dee Dee's over there. Little self-deprecating humor. I drive like a girl, so it was the task. I can appreciate that we have male and female differences. We are allowed to talk about how men and women are different. We can laugh at ourselves. We can point it out. Again, just one more way we are grounded in truth at Freedom from the Press.
You know, and it's funny too, because that's one of the topics I want to explore a little bit in the Rumble only, is for boomers to understand, and old people. I'm Gen X, Todd's whatever the generation after me is. But to understand how different our reality is from kids growing up, because like Dee Dee and I, our wives, like we make fun of each other. I don't remember when anybody's birthday is. My wife does and make sure they get a card. You know, when it comes to driving the car, backing in, Francis likes when we're heated up. I like it too. But when like it's okay to have male and female differences, we used to accept that. We no longer can. And it just drives me bananas. But our kids and our grandkids, like Will and Josh, who are part of our team, they're in their 20s. They grew up in a reality where you couldn't acknowledge that. And I don't think for people that are older, you understand that was the generation they grew up in. And this is why some of them are so messed up in the head. And we're going to talk about that in the second hour, though.
Yeah, we have
Todd, should we wind down Rumble, Facebook?
You want to do a little Gavin before we get out of here?
Yeah, let's play the Gavin video, and then we're going to head over to Rumble. Do your spiel on how people can find us on Rumble, Todd.
Man, the list is getting longer because we have so many properties. But folks, we are going to wind down on the Facebook hour. We had some good comments on Facebook today. We got the usual trolls. We appreciate it. If you want to keep seeing the show, you want to stay involved, we're going live another half hour on Rumble. You got to cut off the Facebook feed here. You can go to rumble.com and look for the American Tribune. That's the name of our channel, the American Tribune. Just like YouTube, if you've ever been on YouTube, but instead of red, it is green. The app on your phone is a green play button instead of red play button. And instead of censorship and big tech tyranny, it is free speech over on Rumble. So that's why we appreciate Rumble so much. Head over to rumble.com. Look for the American Tribune. You'll see us in the live podcast feed still. And folks, if you like what we're hearing here, and again, we censor ourselves over on Facebook and some of these big tech platforms, you can go to the AmericanTribune.news as well. That's where our business partner, Will Tanner, he's been on the show before. He does some deep dives into some crazy things that if we tried to talk about it on our normal podcast, we'd be in Nukesville in no time over on YouTube and Facebook. And so people like Billy and whoever the Ukraine flag guy were that are like Trump and Epstein. Yeah, we've done that. We have 4 or 5 articles on the relationship with Donald Trump and Jeff Epstein, among other things. Will's doing a lot of stuff on Rhodesia and South Africa, which ties in perfectly to our conversations about how Democrats are weaponizing race and promoting anti-white messages. And you can see what that path looks like if we stay down it here. Other than that, you can find us at theamericantribune.com. We do breaking news stories every single day. We got the Facebook properties you're on. You got the Twitter accounts that Jason and I are live on right now. We got our little YouTube channel that I think had 2 different comments today. That is a record. We're all over the place. And if you like what you're hearing and you want to support the channel, we're not asking for money, not asking for donations. We appreciate it. We're just looking for a like, a thumbs up, maybe share with your friends or family that vote Democrat as we try to wake up this country. Did I miss anything?
I think you nailed it. On that note, we're going to play Gavin, then we'll play the bridge. We'll see you guys on the other side on Rumble.
Now we're here making 360. Los Angeles a safer place since we won't have politicians. We do that ourselves. So that's what we're here today.